I would walk in, I'd go in, greet the person, and inevitably within minutes, they'd be like, okay, I found you, where are the others? And it happened so frequently. And what people meant by that was, where are the other BIPOC and queer providers that I can go to that I can trust?
What does being successful even mean? Like, what's next for me? You know, how do we even define success? Like, as most of us, like first-gen Latinas, right?
I would sit late at night and just look at the GoFundMe. I would look at it at night because I was kind of embarrassed. And so I figured if it was at night, nobody could see me looking at my screen.
I think we're told a huge lie in business and just in life, and that's about leadership and what leaders are supposed to look like, right? Like that, you know, they're the ones that are supposed to be bossing everybody around and telling people what to do. But in reality, I think we both agree that real leaders are the ones that let other people participate also and kind of let them flourish as well. And I think that's one of the things that like is really very inherent. I'm so excited to welcome to the Auténtica podcast today my dear friend, Dr. Montserrat Andreys, and she is the founder of Hey Doc Clinic and a sports medicine chiropractor. How are you doing today,
Hello. I'm so good. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so excited for you to be my guest and for people to hear the story of not just Hey Doc, but also you, because I think you're a really, really awesome and multi-passionate, multi-hyphenate person. And I know we've had a lot of conversations about this and how people try to put us in like boxes, right? And I feel like you are proof that we don't have to fit into one box. And I knew that from like the first time that we sat down to get coffee and we talked for like 5 hours and we probably could have kept going. So hang tight, everybody. This podcast might run long. But yeah, I'm just so excited. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do now?
Yeah. So I'm a sports chiropractor, which means that I received my doctorate in chiropractic and I simultaneously did a master's in sports and exercise science, and then and continued my studies with both in terms of continuing ed. And I worked in a sports medicine practice for 8 years at the beginning of my career. And then I transitioned and decided to open my own practice, and we'll get into the details of that. But so I've now been the clinical director and the founder of Hey Doc Clinic the last 3.5 years. And so yeah, that's where we are now. It's a multidisciplinary space, and so what that means is that I'm a chiropractor, but we also have acupuncture, massage, pelvic health work by an occupational therapist, physical therapy, and we have had in the past and are having behavioral mental health care support again coming up. We have fitness classes. So that's the interdisciplinary part. And we do this with intersectional providers. And what we mean by that is that we center at the clinic queer, trans, and BIPOC folks while serving the Portland community at large. But we do this with people that have intersections of being BIPOC and queer or trans themselves.
I love it. And maybe I'm biased because full disclosure, I am a patient of Hey Doc and I have been for the last 1.5 years. I know why I felt it was important for something for Hey Doc to exist, but I want to hear from you. Like, what was your reasoning? What made you say, I need to be the one to start something like this?
It's funny that you say that because the entire time after I graduated, people always ask, are you going to open a clinic? And the thing is that when I was a massage therapist in Chicago, I had my own massage therapy studio there. And that experience led me to say that I would never open a clinic. So the whole time that I was practicing, I was just doing my little doctor thing and I was really happy. And people are you going to open? And I was like, nope, I surely am not. And then, of course, as you mature sometimes and get through different experiences, you change your mind. And so one of the things that started happening in the sports medicine clinic where I worked is that I would walk in, I'd go in, greet the person, and inevitably within minutes, they'd be like, okay, I found you, where are the others? And it happened so frequently. And what people meant by that was, where are the other BIPOC and queer providers that I can go to that I can trust? And they figured that if I existed, that I had to know the rest. Like, I don't know if they thought we all had like decoder rings or something, and we would just kind of like beep each other. But so I would frequently ask, what are you looking for? What kind of provider do you need? And if I didn't know somebody, then I would go home that night and just look up, okay, I need an optometrist, and just start going literally on Google Maps. I would just look up optometrist and look through every single website and look at all of the practitioners that they had. And I would just start making lists. And so that became the list, which is a list of BIPOC healthcare providers in Portland that patients and other providers started circling around. And it just started being known that that was a resource. And so over time, people started commenting like, wouldn't it be so great if all of you were just in one place? And I was like, that would be pretty great. Like, let me know when that starts. I'll go over there and work, sign me up. And so when it came time for me to open a place, one of the things that I needed was to be working in a practice where I wasn't the radical one, where healthcare justice and social justice were topics of conversation that we could have freely and openly, not only amongst ourselves as staff and providers, but also with our patients, and being able to acknowledge, that they were having really horrible experiences as trans patients, or that queer people that were trying to get pregnant were just having a really, really hard time finding providers that would treat them with respect, or having people not mistreat them in different healthcare settings because they couldn't understand their English as well as they would have preferred. And so there was just, or people would bring me like their aunties and their tias, their grandmas, because they knew that I would treat them with respect. And I wanted, if I was in a space, I knew that then people would assume that the rest of the space was going to be welcoming and open in that same way. And so there are a lot of really great BIPOC-led environments, healthcare environments here in Portland. But there were certain parameters and things that I really wanted and needed that led me to understand that I just needed to start my own. So I didn't want to, but I did it.
I feel like a lot of us start our businesses out of necessity a little bit. And I feel like that's becoming more and more true. Like the more people get laid off, the more they're like, I need to do something. And I always say, if you feel that there's a need for something, chances are other people do too. And I mean, as someone who has been gaslit and has had a lot of medical trauma trying to get diagnosed with endometriosis and PCOS and, even going through infertility, I want to say that I owe a lot of my sanity and mental health and physical health to HeyDoc from the last year. But I want to take things back a little bit because I know a little bit about how you grew up. Like, did you always know that you wanted to be a doctor in some kind of way?
Oh, that is... Okay, so before I answer that, I just want to tell you that it makes me so happy to know that you have found joy in healthcare, because when we started it, I pictured people just like you. And so I literally tell people all the time, we made this for you. I'm so glad you're here. So I'm so glad that it's been able to serve you.
It's too early in the episode to cry.
It's just that's what makes it worth it, So did I know? No. When I was growing up, if you had asked me at 9 or 10 years old, people were like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, I want to be a lawyer. I don't know if that was my own invention, if somebody mentioned it. My mom said that I was just always, if I heard about something, I would always be like, that's not fair. Or if I felt like I was wronged, I'd be like, let me explain, So I don't know if I decided I wanted to be a lawyer or if somebody mentioned, like, you should probably be a lawyer. But that's definitely, I was always looking for like justice and fairness and making sure that people had a fair shake at things. And it wasn't until I got older and after really kind of internalizing the experience of watching my grandmother work on people at the house. So I'll backtrack a little bit. My great grandmother is from Honduras. She's Garifuna, or she was Garifuna. And she was an indentured servant and so was pulled out of school when she was like 6 or 7 years old and was given to this family. And so by the time she was done with that, she had missed school altogether. So eventually, once she became pregnant and started working with her midwife realized how smart she was and asked her if she could take her on as an apprentice. So my great-grandmother became a midwife and an herbalist in Honduras, and did a lot of that work for years and years, and then ended up teaching her kids some of her different skills and talents. So of my grandmother's generation, like different siblings kind of acquired different skills. My grandmother acquired massage. So when I left Mexico at 8 and moved to Chicago, my family was already there. And I would watch my grandmother massage people. They would come to the house and they would bring like casseroles, or they would offer to like fix the car, or, it was pretty much on a barter system, and she would work on them at the house. And so I would get to watch whatever she was doing because I didn't know what it was at the time. And I would just see them get better. So I was often just like sitting in the room watching. And later on, when it came time for me to really decide what I wanted to do, I decided that I wanted to study physical therapy because I thought that that's what I was seeing at home. So I was in university, I was talking to a lot of people. And if anybody mentioned that they were going to a PT or doing something, I was really intrigued and I would ask them about their experience. And I don't know what was going on in physical therapy in Chicago at that time, but the reviews were 0 out of 10. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't go into a profession where people aren't going to like the work that I'm doing when what I was seeing at home, people loved and were doing really well with. So I ended up leaving university after a year, and I ended up finding a year later the Chicago School of Massage Therapy, and I was like, that's what I was seeing at home. And I went through the massage program at that point. So really the way that I found it was kind of like fumbling through what was available in the United States that mirrored what my great-grandmother and grandmother learned in Honduras.
Wow, that's so cool. I actually didn't know all of that about you, so that's really awesome. And it's so interesting how a lot of the time our stories don't actually start with us. Like that's something that I realized a lot, recently when I've been thinking a lot about, what does being successful even mean? Like what's next for me? How do we even define success? Like as most of us, like first gen Latinas, right? Like we wear so many hats. Like how do we decide like what's enough? And I realized that my first version of like seeing like what a woman's life should look like was my mom's story. And that led me to believe for a very, very long time that I couldn't have a career and a family at the same time. And it took me a lot of healing and unlearning and seeing other women do it for me to be like, oh, maybe it's possible for me too. So it's just, your gifts and your interests came from your grandmother and your great grandmother. And I think that that's really, really, really cool. So how did going to massage therapy school end up with you becoming an entrepreneur? Because that is a huge jump.
Yes. So when I was, so my second job in Chicago was at a chiropractic practice, which actually ended up influencing me a lot later going into chiropractic. But that situation did not end well. And it ended because that doctor wanted us to sign non-compete agreements, but we had already been employed there for a really long time. And so one of the other massage therapists that I worked with at the time, we had been talking about maybe branching out on our own and starting our own massage studio. So when we got this non-compete introduced to us, we kind of panicked. Honestly, it was like a mistake of youth. We panicked because we were like, we can't sign this. We're looking to leave like right away, pretty soon in the next few months. And I didn't know at the time that I could have said something like, I'm going to have my lawyer look over this and we'll get back to you in 2 weeks. Or I just felt like, somebody gave me a non-compete. I can't sign. I can't tell you why. I'm 23, 24 years old and like, blow up my life, and so it did push us, though, to open our own place. So we literally walked out of the job that day because we were like, we can't sign this. And we immediately met at a cafe and started planning how we would open our own massage studio. And we found a personal training studio where my friend's boyfriend worked. They had rooms for us to be able to massage out of there. And so we started our own place. It was called Touch Massage Therapy in Chicago. It was great. And I quickly learned that I hated ordering toilet paper and making sure that other people's rent checks were in time and all of the logistics of it. I was like, oh my gosh, I hate this. So I was very lucky. My business partner loved doing all of that. And then I really enjoyed doing all the advertising and like the marketing, getting the word out there about what we were doing and things like that. So we had a really good division of labor. Again, out of like lack of knowledge, we wouldn't even have known to try to learn if those were traits that we had that would be compatible. But it turned out to be really compatible.
And you're so lucky that you had that experience of having a good co-founder the first time around, because girl, if I told you how many businesses I've seen fail because co-founders start out good and then not so good because somebody was biting their tongue for a little bit too long. A lot of startups end up failing that way, and it's really unfortunate. But so I don't know if I realized that Hey Doc is your second business then. So what lessons were you able to take from that first experience and apply them to what you're doing now?
Well, starting Hey Doc so many years after, one, I definitely realized that I wanted, that if I was going to have a co-founder, it needed to be somebody that I really knew that things would, I realized how lucky we were that the first iteration in terms of a business worked out in that way. And so, but I also realized that I really, really needed a strong office manager. And that came from being in the chiropractic world for a while and seeing the things that worked and didn't work in various office environments. And the office manager and the front desk staff are 100% central to the whole of the experience of a practice. And so I knew that I needed a really strong office manager. I would say that was probably my biggest lesson. The second was that I really didn't want to be doing all of those, like the really granular logistics things. I was not going to be the one that wanted to be doing that. I'm more like the visionary and the person that knows like where we're going and where we're growing. And I needed someone to be able to implement all of the dreams so that I could keep pushing in the other direction.
I mean, you're just giving like an entrepreneurship 101 lesson over there, because that's something that I tell my clients all of the time and really is essential to building a really great business foundation, no matter what kind of business you have, right? Because at the end of the day, we're only one person, and we don't all have as many hours in a day as Beyonce does, like that sign or t-shirt says somewhere, mainly because she's a billionaire. But I mean, we have to, as the founders and CEOs and visionaries, right? Like that is our job. That is our job to keep the vision at the forefront and keep things growing and moving and taking shape. And if we're too caught up in making sure this invoice gets paid and making sure so-and-so is on time every day and making sure orders go out, like there's no room for us to grow. And for a lot of the time, and this is where I can talk a little bit about my first gen eldest daughter experience. For a lot of us, it's really hard to give that up, and delegate and understand that there are people who are going to see our vision and be able to build with us. And for me, I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I made early on when I was growing my nonprofit organization, and it grew so quickly that I just was too afraid to ask for help because I thought people were going to look at me differently or be like, oh, Ashley doesn't know what she's doing because she's asking for help. But in reality, when we don't do that and when we don't delegate and, keep our visionaries head on, that really hinders our growth. So I'm glad that you had that realization. And it is so true.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I think, one of the things that you're kind of alluding to is that, I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth for what you were experiencing, but my version of that is that if I don't know what to do at this junction or another, then I don't deserve this business to succeed. If I don't know how to lead this through this XYZ thing, then what am I even doing? Do I deserve that? Should I be here? Should I be founding anything? Should I, whatever, XYZ. And it's actually, once you've been in it for a while, you realize that it's actually the exact opposite. But when you're at the beginning of that, it's really hard to believe that, because I think for myself, I was looking for validation of why I should be in that type of leadership position. And so I was looking for it through knowing the answers to some hard questions that were coming up, instead of being like SOS, phone a friend.
Well, I think we're told a huge lie in business and just in life, and that's about leadership and what leaders are supposed to look like, right? That, they're the ones that are supposed to be bossing everybody around and telling people what to do. But in reality, I think we both agree that real leaders are the ones that let other people participate also and kind of let them flourish as well. And I think that's one of the things that is really very apparent when you are even a patient at Hey Doc, that you're not going there and your practitioners are not all burnt out and miserable. They actually are happy to be at work, and because of that, they're able to do their job so much better and remember you every time that you come in and not treat you like some kind of number. So I think that all of those things that you just said just made you understand what actual leadership is supposed to be like.
Yeah. And, one of the things when I was putting the business plan together, being in healthcare, it's an extremely harmful industry. Healthcare is very unhealthy. And a lot of people are mistreated. The providers are often, as you just mentioned, burnt out. Staff are often treated very, very poorly. And patients definitely fall through the cracks at all times. And so one of the things that I put into my business plan was that I wanted us to have a decision-making triangle and weigh our decisions on how does it affect those three participants of the system, right? The patients, the providers, and the staff equally. And so when we're making decisions about a new thing, we're constantly referring back to that, how does it affect this? How does it affect this? Okay, it's a go. We can do this. Or this is feeling kind of funky on the side. What do we need to do to make this different, to change it? And I think that that's the part that people feel when they walk into the space, even if they don't know that that's why we're trying as best as we can. Of course, there's nothing is ever perfectly symmetrical, but as best as we can, we try to keep in mind how to best support all three participants in the system that we have.
Yeah, it's you're building this collective ecosystem community in your workplace that I think anybody would be lucky to work with you, Monse. And that, like I said, it really translates into the patient side as well. But that being said, I know community has had a really, really huge role in not just like the foundation of what Hey Doc is, but also how you got started. And I mean, talk to us about how Hey Doc physically started, because I know something about a crowdfunding campaign.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So there was a couple of things. The very first thing that I felt aware of was that there was a lot of holes in my knowledge about business and about clinics and about bringing healthcare justice to life. And so the first thing I did before anything else was that I put together a group of people that are the advisory council for the clinic. And they're people that I felt held knowledge and information that could either, one, be there to hold me accountable, or that could really help give me information on things that I was not aware of. And then it was through talking to the advisory council and a couple of meetings with them that then I started developing the business plan. And I wasn't doing very well at that point. And so one of the advisory council actually recommended a friend of theirs that helps people write business plans. And I was like, oh my God, I had spent hours and hours trying to research and figure out how to write one. And this person came in, we met, I think it was every Saturday or Sunday in February. And after those 4 sessions, boom, 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 got the business plan out and running. And I was looking at this document. I was like, wow. And so part of what was in the business plan was that we were going to do crowdfunding for the clinic. So that happened at the end of February. So I decided the crowdfunding would start in April on my birthday, and that I would make a request on Instagram that for my birthday, I would really love it if people would support this thing. And Ashley, I was petrified. Like, I hate asking for money. Fundraising has never been my thing. You know, like when you're a little kid and you're like, oh, you're so cute, go sell the chocolates because everyone will buy them from you. Like, absolutely not, you know. And so in order to even be able to force myself to do this, I did like little reels, like dancing on Instagram, saying I was going to announce something big on my birthday in a week, you know, in a week and 4 days and 3 days and 2. And I was, because it was the only way I was not going to back out. Like, I had to make it so big that I would have to be so accountable that if I didn't do something on that day, people would be like, what the heck, you know? So it was awful. I mean, I was like sick the morning of my birthday. I shouldn't have done it on my birthday, because then I was just like, didn't want my birthday to come, which is horrible. And I sat outside in my garden and I just talked to the camera on an Instagram live and told everybody what I was doing. And we opened the GoFundMe that day. And I basically decided that I was going to put my best effort forward. So I had my advisory council, I had my business plan, and my appeal to our community. And if the community decided that they wanted to entrust me to steward this idea, then I would do it. And if they didn't, then the community was speaking loud and clear as well that way, and I would just like not go forward. And yeah, we definitely raised the funds. People from all over the country, friends, families, you know, just were sending all different denominations. And I think I've talked to you about this. I would sit late at night and just look at the GoFundMe. I would look at it at night because I was kind of embarrassed. And so I figured if it was at night, nobody could see me looking at my screen. And I would see like the $5 donations, and those really stuck with me because I felt like they were more a signal of like a vote of confidence, or like, I don't know how much money people do or don't have, but it just felt like a symbol of wanting to be a part of it and wanting to contribute.
Validation.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, Monse, like, we got you. We might not have a lot of money, but we believe in this idea and we really need it.
Yeah. And people from like other cities donating, that were like, this isn't happening here and nobody that I know will go, but I want this to exist for somebody else. And I was just like, yeah. So community is everything. We have a big mural now in front of the clinic. And it's basically an Audre Lorde quote. And it says, without community, there's no revolution. And I firmly believe that.
And the mural is stunning. I'm so proud every time I bring somebody past there. I'm like, look at what my friend Montserrat did on her clinic. I'm like showing it off.
It's so pretty. I love it. I'm a Chicago girl and Mexico City too. Murals are so central to my experience in my life in Mexico City and in Chicago. And so to have like my own mural on my own clinic, it just and we have two, because we have one on the outside and a mural on the inside too. Yeah, they're kind of my favorite thing.
You really did that. You're doing the thing. You're doing the thing. And I know Haydock is going through some expansion right now, which is very exciting, right? 7 days a week.
Yeah, one of my dreams was always to increase accessibility. And obviously not everyone can go to the doctor, Monday through Friday. So I had worked Saturdays my entire career until I opened Hey Doc, like as a massage therapist, as a chiropractor. I always worked Saturdays. And it just really helps people out a lot to be able to go somewhere on the weekends. And in the sports medicine practice that I worked in, we had people injure themselves all the time on the mountain, hiking, playing with the kids, whatever. And so it's nice to be able to have a place that's not urgent care for people to go on the weekends for injuries and things like that. And so we just started that. This weekend will be our third weekend that we're open 7 days a week, and we're just building that practice. So right now we have a chiropractor and a massage therapist. And so, yeah, we're just kind of letting people know that they can come and if they're injured or if they just need to be there on a different day for whatever reason of convenience. And if people want to get a massage and an adjustment to refresh, to start the week off right, they can come hang out with us.
I love that. I'm excited for my weekend appointments at Haydock now. And we'll get back to Haydock in a little bit, but I just thought of something because I really want to talk about the fact that you're a multi-hyphenate creative like me, which is one of the coolest things about you. We totally skipped over the fact that you also majored in dance in college while you were studying medicine. Can we go back to that? And mainly because I want people to be able to see that you don't have to just do one thing and you can have a series of passions and interests outside of your job, even if you are an entrepreneur. I feel like a lot of us feel like we have to just pick something, right? Like for me, it was like, well, I either can do business or music and I can't do both. And now it's been 8 years since I've performed music and I'm like, oh my God, I think I need to go back. It's time. It's calling me because I've realized that we don't have to choose. So how do you balance? And I know that this is a complicated question with maybe a not so straightforward answer, but how do you balance, your responsibilities as a doctor and a founder, and also you're a flamenco dancer that actually performs all over Portland and probably other places that I'm missing. How do you find the time, girl?
Oh, the time finds me, I think. Yeah, we definitely don't have to choose. And it's a lie of adulting. It's a lie of capitalism. You can absolutely fulfill all parts of yourself. You can be a full expression of everything that you are. And it's funny because my mom recently told me that when I was a little kid, she was so excited. My mom loves art. It's the reason that I was exposed to so much art. And she told me that when I was a little kid and she saw what an artist I was, she was so excited and happy. She was like, oh my gosh, my child is an artist, because my mom is the ultimate scientist, math brain, but And then she said that I hit the sciences in elementary school. And she was like, no, we're going to lose her to science. And so I was like, oh my gosh, and my mom never really tried to guide me in one direction or the other. She just like allowed me to explore whatever I was drawn to. So I just found that to be really funny that even from the beginning, it was always art and science, art and science. And when it was time for me to go back to school after owning a massage studio, I also taught at the Chicago School of Massage Therapy, which is what influenced me wanting to know more and learn more about the body and kind of expand my license and my degree. And I was like, well, the only way I'll make it through a really like heavy science curriculum for pre-med is if I major in dance and make science all of my electives so that I'm accountable to my degree in dance. That's the only way I could see myself kind of battling against what would be societally acceptable. Because if I had to choose between organic chemistry and a dance class, I felt like I wouldn't be strong enough to maybe not do well in sciences.
Yeah.
But if my degree was in dance and that's what I was accountable to and my electives were science, then I had to go to my dance class, like I wasn't gonna be able to wiggle out of it. So you see a trend, right? Like I did all these reels to make myself accountable for the GoFundMe and like I gave myself a degree in dance so I would be accountable to that, And so along the way, honestly, I thought, any minute now, I'm going to have to give up dance. Any minute now, I'm going to have to give up dance. I said that to myself many, many times. When I chose the degree in dance, I was like, oh, I hacked the system this time, And then I went to chiropractic school and I danced very little during chiropractic school just because it was so rigorous. But anytime we had a break, I would jump back into dance classes. As soon as I was kind of a new doctor and out in the world, I found the dance company, Espacio Flamenco, here in Portland, and they just like scooped me up and took me in. It was amazing. And I thought, well, I'll do this until my practice is so big that I can't dance anymore. And I kept looking for when was I going to have to stop? When was I going to have to leave it? And it never happened. I just kept staying open to it. I was open to it ending. And it just never truly had to. Anytime I came across to a crossroads, I was like, is this when I have to give it up? And I was like, oh no, look, there's still this little breadcrumb that I can follow. And now I'm like, oh, you couldn't rip it away from me. I won't give it up anymore. It stood by me all this time. And now I'm realizing that I never have to choose one or the other. I can definitely do both, and we can all do both.
And that's one of the cool things about entrepreneurship is that I was actually on the Yo Quiero Dinero podcast earlier today, and we were talking about how in business, sometimes we define success as like always like out earning in revenue or growing into some milestone every single year. And like, if we don't, make more money the following year, that means that we didn't do well or whatever, right? When in reality, like that's kind of the beauty of entrepreneurship. It's like, yeah, the money is nice. And obviously like who doesn't want more money, but it's like the freedom is also a really cool part about entrepreneurship. And we kind of get to decide like how our businesses scale and at what rate. Like we have more control over that than we think. And so, for you, I feel like HeyDoc is growing really quickly, but like also at a really healthy pace that it doesn't feel so hectic that you have to give up this whole other part of you, which is obviously really important. So I think that that's really cool.
Thank you. I really love the concept. I can't remember the name of the guy that coined this concept, but it's like about your rich life. And one of the things that you can do as an exercise is like name the things that can be a part of your life that will make you feel rich and accomplished. And so like for some people, it's picking up my kids every day too, or like making sure that I can walk my dog, or making sure that I get to go to the movies once a week, or, whatever it is for you individually. Like, what are the things that make you feel joy and like you've arrived and prosperous and all of that? And then working towards those things and not so much like a financial goal post. And I really love, because I love that concept, because I feel like it opens the door more in entrepreneurship towards living a fulfilling life that you enjoy instead of grinding to the bone, which I think capitalism guides us towards more readily. And if we can't put other measures in place to help support the life that we really want, it's a very easy route to go towards, which is just like more money, more investment, more capital at the end of it,
Well, and I also think that, business is so personal and people forget that. And I think we need to understand that there are different phases of our life where like having more time might be important, or having more money might be priority, or, there's so many different combinations of things based on what we're going through, and also our personal goals outside of business, right? That that really should define the next moves of our business. Our business should not be controlling our life, which it happens to the best of us, right? But I think we should all be working towards having really great office managers that don't let that happen to us.
True story. Cheers to all the office managers out there.
Key takeaway from today's episode: have a really great office manager. Or just like have a really, really great team around you. If you're a solopreneur and you don't have an office manager, like having a really strong community of entrepreneurs around you, I also think is really, really helpful. It's been really helpful for me. Essential actually to not go insane on this crazy ride that we're on. But that all being said, what is next for you and for Hey Doc?
Right now I'm really focusing on making the 7-day-a-week clinic as robust as possible. And we've had mental and behavioral health in the past, but I really want to try to build something more robust around that. And so that's kind of our next adventure for the clinic, is trying to build that out, see what that can truly, truly look like. And one of my central dreams and ideas has always been to have primary care at the clinic. There's actually a lot more to it than I initially realized. And so there may be some things that we'll need to put into place in order to make it possible to do primary care as part of the space. But that will be after behavioral health and getting that really solid. That would be kind of the next dream.
That makes me so happy. I'm in desperate need of a primary care doctor. I guess I'll just wait until that happens at Hey Doc. I mean, maybe I shouldn't wait, but I mean, maybe I will.
Yeah, no, we'll help you find somebody sooner.
We'll see. But that's awesome. That's super, super exciting. And you guys also do events at Hey Doc, right? I feel like we didn't talk about that. What kinds of events are happening?
Well, when we first started, we did a lot more events. And it's basically predominantly guided by the providers. So we used to have sound baths. We've had massage workshops. We've had pelvic health educational workshops. There was a whole series around like sexual health, which was really cool. And so it's been mostly guided by what providers want to do. There was a time where our acupuncturist, Lydia, was doing free auricular acupuncture for the community to help reduce stress and anxiety. And so, yeah, there's been a lot, but it's been kind of provided by them on kind of off hours. And so I'm really hoping that as we bring in behavioral health, mental health care services, we want to start having group sessions for the community. And so I think that that'll be the initial first thing where we're spending additional time in. But the one thing I don't lack is ideas. So I've always had a dream of doing kind of based on the 8 pillars of health, doing workshops every year around the 8 pillars of health, kind of like one a month, and then like skipping holiday months and stuff like that. And so that's another concept idea, doing retreats, things like that. But I think at this point, I really want to focus on getting the clinic's services into as robust an offering as I can, because I can see myself getting really excited and distracted by doing fun things like workshops and retreats. I love being in small group settings where people are talking and like, here's my problem. How do we solve this? And everyone gets to kind of like workshop it.
You know, I love a good retreat. I'm ready to help plan that whenever you're ready.
Oh my gosh. Yes, please. So it's just, the ideas for what our community could use there's so many. And so it just feels really exciting. It feels like even once the clinic is in a good spot, I don't think we'll ever be done. I think there's always places to grow and expand in responsiveness to what the community asks us for.
Yeah. I mean, that's how you know you have something good, because there's so many possibilities out there. Well, this was so awesome. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you so much for being my guest. And I'm so excited for people to continue following your journey and the HeyDoc journey. Where can people find you and follow HeyDoc?
On Instagram, I'm under dr.montserrat. And we also are under HeyDoc Clinic on Instagram. And on our website as well. But yeah, those are the main places. We're predominantly on Instagram and putting a lot of content there.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.